Women's Hurling Podcast, brought to you again by Bourke Sports. I see everybody's wearing the tops this time, looking slick, lads. If you're looking for any gear for the winter or for the start of next season, which is nearly coming now, onto www.bourkesports.ie and talk to norma.clancy at bourkesports.ie. Lads have a new website. You can get 15% off your first order, and they have a cool kit builder. You can go and design your own stuff, etc. Right, we have a lot to get through. We'll have a quick run through the results of the day or of the weekend in the senior championship. Galway 3-13, Offaly 3 points. In the Nancy Murray, we go straight to that because Louth equalled Offaly's score with 1 goal. It was Cavan 5-16, Louth 1 goal. Cork 3-12, 1-8 and 1-8 from Wexford in the senior yesterday. Big win for Clare. We'll talk about that in a while. Clare 1-18, Dublin 1-7. In the intermediate championship, Kerry 1-5, Meath 1-12. And in the Premier Junior, Armagh 3-18, Roscommon 4 points, which probably makes them the junior champions, but nobody knows. So anyway, we'll move on. Let's start with the game of the weekend, Clare against Dublin. And I know you were watching that for us, Davey, as well. So before we start, I just have to say, the number of people who said to me yesterday, you got it wrong, Dublin won. Hold on a second. 2 things about that. Firstly, I called Clare to win, as did Fiona. Secondly, it's very clear that people are only tuning in to listen to Sarah's predictions and tuning out after that. So you're going to go last in future because we're not getting tired of your brush anymore. So I just want to say, we did call it that Clare won. By all accounts, Sarah, you featured heavily in the Clare dressing room before the game. But anyways, Davey, big win for the Banner. Tell us a little bit about it. Were they as far ahead of Dublin as the scoreline suggests?
Basically, yeah, it was a really, really convincing win from Clare, from right from the start to literally the last puck of the ball. Again, 117 to 1-6. You said 118. I might have missed the score, but it was the structure of the Clare players. Their defence was immense. They were against. There was a gale force wind in a wet pitch, and they just sat back. Their 3 halfbacks sat in the 45. Had their 2 midfielders on the 65, and that was their block. There was no getting past it. But Dublin played straight into their hands, had 2 wing forwards pushed in on top of the centre forward, Aisling Maher, and 2 corner forwards pushed in, blocking all the space. It was the Clare defence just crowded everything out, with great help from Dublin themselves. But the like you can see that Gerard Connell's input to the team. The way they play, the way they break out of the fence, it's short passing, get up as far as we need to go to deliver it in long. And with them sitting so deep, it caused the half-forward line to come out as well, play as 3 midfielders nearly. But they were pushed in then when the ball went inside to Anya Loughlin, Mairead Scanlon and Chloe Morey. Got the ball to midfield, poked it in, and there was runners coming off the shoulder every time. Puck outs then, second half, it was 6 points to 4 at half time to Clare against the gale, as I said. Second half then, Clare playing with the wind, and they just commanded from start to finish. Had Dublin in awful trouble with puck outs. It was like their first training session. Just didn't know where to puck it. But again, it was the Clare full forward line. They came out to 45 yards out, let the cornerbacks have it. But once they did, they pushed and tackled the numbers. Dispossessed them numerous times, and again it was just dominant display from the whole way through.
And I guess you'd expect
you have to give credit to one Dublin player in particular, and that's Rosie Kennelly in goals. She pulled off one fantastic save in the first half. Second half then Chloe Moore went in full forward, caught a great puck out on Dee Johnson, who also had a great game. Dee fouled her, but the kind of play played on, and another low kind of to the corner shot, powerful shot. She got down low and saved it. So that's one bright spark from the Dublin team.
I guess it's not that surprising really. If you look at that Clare team, they're a very, very experienced side. They have won an awful lot. And I suppose when it comes down to it in a knockout game or in a straight shootout, that bit of confidence and that bit of, I suppose, belief in yourself, used to be on winning teams, definitely helps. Like we saw earlier in the year, they beat Kilkenny in the league below Nolan Park. Like that's not an easy thing to do. So like you don't go from a performance like that to being a poor team overnight. So They're physically quite strong as well, Clare, aren't they? Like, I mean, like the longer the year goes on and the worse the weather gets, like the harder they'll be to beat. Like, you know, like Clare Heher, Laura McMahon, Mairead Scanlon, Niamh O'Dea, Chloe Morey, they're a big side. Anya Loughlin, like they're a big physical team. And they won't shy away from the physicality and the challenge that the weather bring either, like, will they?
Most definitely. But like they had 2 changes or 3 changes from the team that lost to Tip, and it was Niamh O'Dea, centre back, sitting on the 45, commended that, and not only commended her space, but told her players around her what to do nearly. She commended that whole defence, which was superb. Chloe Morey then up in corner forward. Again, between herself and Emer Kelly, they kind of ran the show. Like, Emer was all over the field. She was centre forward in the first half and just played everywhere, supported the full forward line. But she also got back to support these sharp hand passes out of play, ran with the ball and then delivered as well. Second half, she went in corner forward and was just a torment to the cornerbacks. Like, again, some great performances, and another one, Anna Ryan as well, just coming out with ball after ball after ball, picking out the right option. The 6 Clare defenders were fantastic, to be honest.
And that was without Ciara Doyle as well, who was injured. So, like, she's another class defender.
Ciara actually came on in the last 6 or 7 minutes.
Interesting.
So I don't know. Was like I was 100% sure it was a niggly injury, but
yeah,
if it was a niggly injury, I don't know would I be chancing her with the game done coming on.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think Ciara's been one of the standout performers in the Ashbourne for the last 2 or 3 years with WIT and with Scariff as well, top class. So, geez, it's great to have those options. Clare are building. Don't write them off. Sarah, a poor day for Dublin, I suppose. Where is Dublin Camogie right now? I mean, we're not too far away from the start of next season. What's happening there? And is there going to be new management? Are the current management going to stay on? What's the feeling amongst the players? Obviously, quite a poor season for them all in all. Are they relegated in the league and no winning the championship?
They were about to be relegated in the league. I think they had 1 game left to play, but to my mind, the way the players were treated and the way the management fallout happened with the old management and then the new management coming in, I think there'll be a cohort of players there will decide not to come back next year. There was lots of to and froing behind the scenes. There was players being asked to sign letters to the county board, you know, to decide whether they were going to play championship or not. While they got out onto the field, I think there'll be a lot of hurt people at the end of this, and I think they'll probably think it's too much hassle to get back involved next year. As I said, you had 18, 19-year-olds being asked to sign letters to the county board stating, you know, their disappointment with playing camogie, and I think that's going to stick long after this season is over for Dublin.
Do the players have to look in the mirror though as well? Like, I mean, in 2017, after Dublin got to the semi-final, the following year, David Herty was without 7 or 8 of those players because they all just went off doing other things. So, like, that just doesn't happen in the top counties. You never see 7 or 8 Kilkenny players leaving. You never see 7 or 8 Galway players leaving. So, do they have to look in the mirror and go, listen, have we really committed to this? Or, you know, was the semi-final a career highlight for them?
I know we discussed this on the podcast that I did with you guys a while back. That year with David was incredibly hard on the players mentally. He got a lot out of the players, but they also needed some time off after it. And those players came back in the next couple of years, but their confidence had taken an awful knock while working with David. And that's just his management style. And I know we've probably all been involved with managers who've knocked you and got as much out of you, but afterwards you needed a break. And that would have been a big factor for those players who decided to leave and do something else for a year or 2, but did come back. But they did need a break after that because it did take a lot out.
You can't just walk away and expect to pick it up, though, do you? Like, if you're going to compete at the highest level, you need to be consistently just adding and adding and adding. But look, we've talked enough. We always end up talking about Dublin. So, Davy, give us a couple of all-star performers from Clare Dublin, in your opinion.
Yeah, as I said, on the Dublin side, I thought Dee Johnson in full back was very good. Niamh Gannon as well, a big mention to her. She was wing back, got a score, and she kind of commanded her position and showed real leadership when in fact Dublin probably didn't have many leaders on the field. And Aisling Maher again, she's a fantastic player playing centre forward, got a couple of scores, but it was just a lack of quality, to be honest. probably lack a definition of a style of play they wanted to play. They didn't really know. But at the same time, you probably can
Is that being unfair on Clare as well? Like, Joe, a bit shout out to Ash Maher. That's her second game in a row being selected as well, so that's fair going. I suppose it's easy to focus maybe on what the losing team didn't do, but like Clare were very impressive at the same time, weren't they?
They were, and the biggest thing, they had a structure to their play. They had a formation on how to defend and how to translate or transition between defence and attack, and then back to defence if needs be. As I said, on the Clare, you can name the six backs, but again, special mention Niamh D just commanded that whole half back line, even two in front of her. Orla Duggan stormed into the game in the second half, got two great scores. Laura McMahon, Mairead Scanlon got 1-2, super finish with the goal, got a point in either half as well. Again, you can name a lot more than that, but they're probably the standout players.
Spot on. Right, we'll move on. And yesterday we had a bit of a women's hurling road trip. We were down in Páirc Uí Rinn, which is a class set up. First time there, actually. It's really good. So thanks to the Cork County Board for welcoming us in with open hands. Fiona, I'll go to you first. As our first look at Cork, what were your initial impressions of them?
Well, we were all very excited about seeing Cork, and we'd seen the team selection, and even looking at it, I know we were all very impressed by it. What do I say? They got the job done. I just don't think the hurling was very interesting. You could see what they were trying to do, but like I think from like watching, I suppose your Galways and your Kilkennys this year, their hurling, there isn't much hurling. There's a lot of hand passing and a lot of they get frees, and they have an unbelievable free taker in Orla Cronin. She got like 8 from 8 yesterday, no bother to her. Like, so why wouldn't you be looking for frees if you got a free taker like that? They recycle a lot of ball. Like, I sound like I'm being negative towards them. I'm not. Like, they got a job done. They won by 10 points against a good Wexford team, but it just didn't excite me or something. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, I suppose, look, Cork are definitely going to be happy, aren't they? They had three players off last year's minor team starting. Saoirse McCarthy came on. Saoirse McCarthy came on, another one of their young players coming through. Like, I suppose they're blood and players, like they got the job done. So I think they're going to be really, really happy with that. Like, the Gemma O'Connor to add back into that team, a fit Saoirse McCarthy to come in to start, like Julia White to go into that team. Like, I think Paudie's going to be very, very happy this weekend sitting there looking at that. I suppose their style is interesting, because I know, Davey, we had Liam Cronin on the podcast here, and I suppose, like, you're very familiar with his style of play. I've seen what Aero play like, and obviously Clare played like under him. That didn't look like a Liam Cronin performance yesterday. They did a lot of sideways passing and over and back, and they weren't quite as direct as I expected them to be.
They looked restrained. They looked restrained at times. You know, it was like you could tell that a few players at different stages would have a ball in their hand and they're like, oh, I really want to strike this in long and low to my corner forward. But it was like, oh, I'm not actually allowed to do that or something. You know, it was like, I don't know. It was a bit at times it was a kind of a hampered performance. But like, again, they won by 10 points. So like, has Cork, you know, we were only saying it yesterday, have Cork ever been this team to score like, you know, loads of points from outside their own 45? They haven't. They play the percentage ball. Like, they ensure they get a score when they're up in that half, and if they don't, they get a free. Amy O'Connor was very exciting now yesterday. I won't take that away from her. She's some woman to slot a goal, and just her speed combined with her touch, she's just the whole package. Like, she really had a great game, and she was very exciting yesterday. But as I said, I was just a bit disappointed at times when, you know, I felt like there could have been more exciting passages of play, and they were hampered by like, oh, I need to hand pass here, and then that girl hand passes back, and another, you know, there could be 3 or 4 hand passes in a row, and it's just a bit, you know. But look, they got the job done. So
yeah, give us an insight on that, Davey. Like, if you're trying to play a new system, and I suppose you haven't had that many challenge games or something like that, it's fair to think that it's going to break down quite a bit before you click, isn't it? Like, what's your experience of that?
Yeah, like in Cork's defence, it's their first championship game. Yeah. Wexford had a tough battle against Galway, and Wexford put up a serious fight, especially the first 40 minutes of that game. And so Wexford were battle hardened going into a second championship game. It's always going to be hard. You don't know where you are with in-house games. It's very hard to tell, are you ready for a championship game? Probably if they're developing a new style player, developing a further development onto their original style, exactly, things are going to go wrong. Weather conditions probably not going to be aiding that, but get the game under the belt, move on to the following next week against Galway, where they will be tested. They will have to perform well to be in thereabouts, even in that game.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Sarah, I suppose the first day out against Galway, you were very, very impressed with Wexford. I suppose the noticeable thing about Wexford, when I'd be always looking out for these things, they looked very organised. Just the little basic things like, they all had the same warm-up tops on, their management all had the same gear on. The stuff that sounds kind of maybe petty, but that you get a little inkling into how things are going, what kind of, I suppose, approach they're taking, stuff like that. So they did look very organised. And geez, they came out and gave it a fair rattle. Do you think that they are progressing game to game from what you've seen of them? Like, were you impressed with them yesterday? Tell us what you think.
I enjoyed watching them more yesterday. Obviously, when you're looking at the underdog and, every 50-50 ball they win, you get a little bit excited. That's just the nature of watching underdogs playing. But I definitely thought they carried their performance through from the first game and they added to it. I thought Shelley Keogh was excellent yesterday. She got a great score in the first half. She got a great block. Then she followed up with a goal in the second half. She just kept moving, kept going. Ciara O'Connor driving out from centre back, really powerful runs, really direct runs up the centre. Sarah O'Connor as well, very effective. I thought probably the player who lost out most was Joanne Dillon. So she was up and she was isolated inside kind of full forward. And we didn't get to see enough of her yesterday, whereas she got a lot more ball against Galway.
Yeah.
To my mind, having seen Clare, Tip, Wexford, Galway and Cork now, I think Wexford are very unfortunate to have been in a group with Cork and Galway, because if they had been in the other group, they would have actually been in a quarter final. Yeah, absolutely. I think they're better than Clare as well. So I think
what?
Yeah,
that's a scandalous statement.
Sorry, I genuinely. If I was Clare.
You think Wexford are better than Clare? You think? Yeah, honestly, that you're actually saying that. Wow.
I am. I think they would catch Clare.
Statement.
I think they would catch Clare. Yeah.
Sarah,
I'm really disappointed.
You really don't like Clare.
I think it's safe to say, Sarah, you can just tick off Lahinch, Kilkee, any of these places, ever.
Don't bother.
I do. I think they're better than Clare.
Whenever you don't head back towards Ina or Kilmaley or any of these, because I'd say Lee and Clare Herod, these be behind waiting for you.
Grand.
Okay, look, Wexford were okay, but let's not get too carried away now.
We saw Clare against. We saw Clare against Tip. Come on.
Yeah, but look, I agree about Joanne Dillon. She was a bit unlucky. She was isolated, maybe 3-on-1 inside a lot of the time, and she can be a very effective forward in the Ashburn. One unusual thing I thought for them was that, considering they didn't have maybe 6 scoring forwards, that Ine Kern didn't start for them. Now, honestly, look, we don't know what goes on in camps. Maybe players have other commitments and aren't maybe training or whatever. But she was excellent for WIT in the Ashburn around February time. She absolutely hauled Oulart over the line in the championship in Wexford, and it was excellent when she came on. So it's just hard to see how she wouldn't have got a start for that team. They're not a top 3, top 6 team or whatever. It's hard to see how she wouldn't have started. So maybe, I don't know. But look, it's easy to be manager.
They ran out of road, unfortunately, now, because they've obviously played Cork and Galway so quickly. But again, Linda Bolter as well yesterday. I think Wexford would be a really interesting team to manage or train if I was looking at teams in Leinster to train. Certainly.
Would you not go and manage Dublin, no?
Absolutely not. No way.
No.
Their county board needs to get their act together.
Don't be one of these now who throws the shit at around the place, but won't step up to the mark when it needs to be there. Step up for your county.
There has to be a mark.
Don't be looking for Wexford. Don't be looking for a Wexford now or a handy old team. Step up.
I think Dave talked about quality, and he's right. The quality is there in Wexford.
No, it is. They have players. Yeah. They have players.
Let's talk about Wexford, where they were last year and where they're after getting.
Definitely. Yeah. And you know what? They're a little bit unlucky that COVID struck. Yeah, no, definitely. It's great to see them back. There's something evocative about that jersey as well. Just the purple and gold. There's a bit of romanticism around it. I suppose they're a little bit unlucky that the league was cancelled, because they would have walked away with that Division 2 and be back up in Division 1 next year. So I don't know where they're going to have to put their season down in Division 2, which will obviously hamper the development a small bit. But look,
it's the Camogie Association, Sully. Who knows? They probably.
Who knows?
Straight back up.
It could be the Division 1 champions now. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be.
Well, if the Promoting Association were looking at it, they would absolutely push for them to be Division 1 next year.
They should,
yeah, they should. They really should. They really should.
Enough.
For the game, they should. But I suppose, look, having seen him in 2 games, I think it's safe to say hats off to Kevin Tatton and his management team. They really have developed that side and dragged them back, heading for where they need to be. Obviously not at the heights that they were, but no, a hat tip to the boys involved with them and to the players for getting their act together and driving it on. It's good to see them back, in fairness. From that game, guys, Fiona, can you give me three players from Cork or a couple of players from Cork that stood out for you?
As I said, Amy was so exciting. Amy O'Connor, I'd say she's going to be on everyone's team for every single match she plays because she's such an exciting forward there. Linda as well, like, you know, she didn't get too many scores herself, but as we were saying there just before we started, like, she set up a load of scores, and having a player like that, like, they're such a good mix of you know, skill and speed, and I really like seeing them playing off each other. And as I said, they're so good at the recycle. So Linda, like, if she got into trouble at all, the ball was always straight back out again. She either won a free or she passed it off to someone who was going to score a goal or a free or a point. So that was Linda. And who else were we saying? I suppose Orla Cronin. You can't not say Orla. Like, her free taking immaculate. I think someone compared her to some
Ronan O'Gara, was it? Or
Ronan O'Gara, I think, yeah. Or someone,
I think the Cork Camogie Pierrot had a few drinks last night.
I still enjoyed it. Like,
there's some interesting tweets after our official page. Nothing scandalous, though, just unusual.
They weren't all easily, you know, at least they are tweeting. That's all I'll say. Not mentioning any other counties. I think
a lot of the Camogie Pierrots had a few drinks last night from last week's league off, but anyway.
But they'd be my 3, and I think just on the note, like, you know, what's most disappointing, I think, about the Cork performance for me, even though, like, they won by 10 points, it's, again, we're going to say it, I'm going to talk about it every week, it's the spread of scorers. They had 4 scorers yesterday. You know, you see your Galway, you see your Kilkenny's 8 or 9 scorers per game. I think that's going to, you know, hold them back in the future. But look, you know, with a free taker like Orla Cronin, you know, you have a lot of players there who are, you know, creating scoring chances with her. So those are
before we move on to Wexford, Sarah, for their few players, like, we nearly had a hashtag going last year on Sports Talk, just let it go. John, just let it go, man.
Bad referee yesterday.
Oh, my Lord Almighty. It was like,
I couldn't get over it.
Anyway, but Jesus, come on, just let it go.
Yeah.
Like, look, rusty, everyone's rusty, right? Rusty first round of championship. Just let the game go, man. Just let it go.
And he had plenty of time to be studying the new rules. And we know once or twice there, the new rules were put into question, and he just kind of, I don't know, he let some of the new rules go as well. And I don't know, very annoying. Like, after, and we didn't talk about this last week, and let's just give a shout out to Liz Dempsey. We thought she actually did an excellent job reffing Limerick and Waterford the week before. So as quick as we are to give out about refs, we'll try and.
Yeah, she was class and fairness.
She was very good.
There was some clipping done in that car.
There was, and it was fantastic to see it, like, and just then brought right back.
The other point on that is, right, we're all sitting here saying we want the game to be let flow and everything. If that's the case, managers need to shut up on the sideline and stop blowing. Every time there's a touch of a hurl, right, you can't have it both ways. If you want to have a physical game, you have to shut up and let the referee it. That's it. Including myself in that. I will shut up next season. Promise, right?
When you're on about the ref watch, I was very critical of Andy Larkin the first game between Kilkenny and Waterford. Didn't know it well. I'll say he didn't know the new rules then, but he reffed Clare v Dublin, and there was 2 dropped hurleys in the whole game. There was 2 frees with it.
That's the shot. That's what you want.
but
it's 2 for 2 by Andy.
In general, it was very, very good.
You reckon referees have stats? Do you reckon they get sent them after a game and going, like, drop the hurleys 0 out of 10? They're like, oh no, man. And like, just like for the next week, you're just like working on that, and then it's like 2 from 2. You're like, yes.
But he must have been listening to the podcast the first week, because
they all do. They all do. We love the white boots, Andy. Bring back the white boots.
Good work, Liz.
Right, Wexford, Sarah. The last day you were talking about Sarah O'Connor being very impressive, and Laura Dempsey. Who'd you pick out from their performance on Saturday?
Just to jump in, I'm adding in Hannah Looney here from my side.
Very solid. Very, very solid. Yeah.
So I'm putting her down, and then I'll move on to Wexford now.
No, that's fair,
Yeah, Shelley Keogh comes in for me.
Definitely.
Absolute
Savage.
workhorse. I think any team in the championship would love to have her right now because she's no fear, and she'll go up and down the field like a train. So really, really impressed with her. Outside of her, I really liked Ciara O'Connor at centre back yesterday. I think she got up the field as much as Orla Cronin got on ball. So, she was very busy yesterday marking Orla Cronin, but she definitely made her presence felt in the Wexford half of the field as well. So I'm going to give her a nod. And then I think realistically, I'd be happy with just those two for yesterday. Yeah.
No, that's fair. Like Shelley Keogh was unbelievable. Like she's such a consistent performer as well. We played out Art in a challenge during the summer, and she was just she was top class. Like we played a lot of challenge matches. Like we played against De La Salle, Beth was playing, and against Clonoulty, so Caught was playing, and like Shelley Keogh was right up there, as good as anything you'd ever see. Just so good. So
very good hurler, isn't she? Just
really fit and just like we talked about this the other day, Davey. Like just completely unrelated to Camogie. We were just talking about how do you defend against the centre forward that drops deep and how organised you have to be, and that's what she does. She's wearing 11, but off she wanders, and it's up to you then how you set up against it. And I don't mean this to disrespect to Wexford, but if she was playing for one of the top 3 teams, like she'd be impossible to handle. Just absolutely top class.
The only last thing I'll say on it is Fiona Keating was playing corner forward for Cork yesterday, and for a new corner forward to have to adjust that system where Cork are playing just that ball too many, it's very hard then for her. She obviously she can't get on possession because they play so zonally and they play so many balls that there's no way of breaking away and getting loose to get a handy ball or a quick ball. I'd hate to be corner forward for Cork. I know Amy.
No, it's a very valid point. No, it is very valid. Yeah. No, I suppose the other side of that is that it was easy for Wexford to come and just clog it because they really came to keep the score down. I know they had a go and all, but realistically in that situation, you funnel players back, you're trying to just harry and cut it out. But ultimately they didn't have enough going forward. Like for Kilkenny or Galway to try and beat Cork, they're not going to be able to do that because they have to commit players forward, and that's where the space starts to come in, and that's where you'll see Cork opening up because teams have to come out and play against them if they're going to try and beat them. So if you sit back, so maybe yesterday you're dead right, but I think that Fiona Keating's a serious operator. I've seen.
Just didn't see it yesterday. Didn't get to see any.
No, she is more of a centre forward. She's a footballer. She's a class footballer. She's really athletic. I wonder maybe could they play her out the field and get her moving and. I suppose
going from the freedom of minor as well into that.
Huge step up.
You said it yesterday, because it's nearly it's borderline over coaching, and it's going to come right for them at some stage. And I suppose our team, as Paul said, in transition, but as I said, the free flowing.
Cork are always in transition according to Paul.
Yeah, that's true.
I think if Cork are going from the dressing room to the field, they're in transition from the dressing room to the field.
Yeah. No, they,
You're right. And look, even Joe, the best defender you come up against at minor isn't as good as any senior defender. Do you know what I mean? It's that's just the way it is, So, anyways, right, perfect. We move on. We were all watching Galway against Offaly today. I went up to Salthill. Talk about Lahinch and Kilkee there. Salthill is no place to be in November, I'll tell you that much. It was absolutely freezing. Ended up sitting beside the Galway stats man, Connor, and ate all these jellies just to try and stay warm. So apologies for that, Connor. But have to say, pitch was in immaculate condition. I think they relayed the pitch there about 3 years ago, and it was absolutely class. But the rain that fell was bananas, and it was really, really difficult. I suppose as a game, it was a bit of a non-event, really, wasn't it? I mean, I was at 2-11 to a point at half time, 2-10 to a point, and I suppose that was it really. Galway were very, very impressive. I know, Davey, you were very impressed their half back line, just how they controlled the game and went through the gears and they needed to.
Yeah, but again, you have to think from a Galway manager perspective, what did we learn at the game? And there's very, very little you can say that we learned. To be honest, it probably an in-house game would have been more beneficial, and that's no disrespect to Offaly, but it is
a little bit though.
Yeah, but it's the truth. It was again, Galway overpowered them everywhere in the field. It was hard to know where to even start trying to trying to analyse on an Offaly perspective, where do we go from a puck out, from a line ball, from a free? What do we do? Because Galway players, the 15 of them, I think were on top of their player throughout the game. And they were physically a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot fitter, a lot more athletic. And again, you have to be worried for Offaly hurling.
Yeah, like I suppose it was kind of like one of those old FA Cup ties where kind of a non-league team gets into the third round and gets drawn against United or Chelsea, and they kind of battle away for 10 minutes, but then it's...
And I will say for that 10 minutes and for a few other times, I actually thought their defending was quite good. Now, they put the Galway forwards under, like, they upset their play a small bit. It could have been, like, geez, it was bad, like, but it could have been a lot worse, I think. And they actually had a lovely little sexy corner forward, Sarah. Is it a Grant? Was that her name or something? Top right corner forward. I think she got on it. John Egan, that's it. Yeah, I knew there was a G in there somewhere. But no, she got on a good bit of ball, way off. But she got on a bit of ball. She looked a bit. She was hungry for the ball, and like she didn't. You know, I thought it was nice to see a good little corner forward being so enthusiastic. I suppose for Offaly in, you know, I suppose on a bad old day out, like, and their keeper was, you know, she put off a few.
I think you need to adjust your television a small bit. The last time I met Gráinne Egan, she was 5'11" in the John Conlon mode, so I didn't call her a little corner forward.
No, I didn't call her a little. I called her a sexy corner forward, I think.
You must be watching it on your phone. You must be watching it on your phone. No, look, a serious shout out to Gráinne Egan.
I thought she was good, yeah.
In a game where you were beaten 3-13 to 3 points. With 2 minutes to go, they had 2 points on the board. She'd scored the 2 of them, had 2 or 3 more shots. And if I'm not mistaken, she played football for Offaly yesterday. And at the other end, Roisin Egan was class. Like, just gave it everything. Like that's what you'll get from her. Like, just a real warrior performance. And Grace Tehan at centre back for them was top class as well.
Yeah, I thought they were defensively quite good.
But ultimately, like Anthony Daly said, one year when Dublin got beaten by Antrim in the hurling, it looked like they just met at the Red Cow roundabout that morning. And look, Offaly did look a little bit like they just met in the County Arms in Burr and just wandered away up to play a game. And they wandered into a game against a professional outfit who just ended them in half an hour, and that was it. And there isn't too much more to say. But I suppose from an all-star point of view, for talking about players, like, Hannah was unbelievable. Like, I think in about 3 minutes you basically got a snapshot of her career. Like, she took off down the wing, scored a point. Then she tried to throw a ball over someone and got dispossessed. Took a shot then from 25 yards and she should have kept going and pinged the goal. And like, it was like, Jesus, this is all in the space of about 3 minutes. It was like, it was unbelievable stuff. But like, class, I don't know if Galway use GPS or not, but if they do, you might think hers is broken because it's just like, just showed up all over the place. Like, it was just really, really good. But look, as you said, David, they're not going to have learned the whole pile from that. But I think like their backs are just so solid. Like, no matter what team you're playing against at senior level, to hold the team to 3 points for whatever it was, the 67 or 8 minutes it went on for was class. Their half back line was excellent. I didn't see who got man of the match, but I think Killian might have said it was Emma Helbert on the way out. You couldn't argue with that. I don't know who they actually gave it to in the end, but they were good. Look, for Offaly, I suppose it's good to see them on the field. I know they had a tricky build up to it and stuff like that. No manager there today for personal reasons, I think, but we don't really know what the story is behind that either. I think they'll want to draw a line under the season and just try and start again next year. They've had a lot of managers, like I think 2 Kilkenny lads I would have worked with, Mick Wall and Ger Walsh, were with them last year, and the players weren't happy with them. And 2 boys have gone away and won the county championship in Kilkenny and in Clare since, and Offaly are failing the field. So, like, again, like Dublin, you just have to look in the mirror and go, guys, are we really putting in the effort required here to be a senior team? It wouldn't surprise me if Susan Erner was the manager next year. Like, she brought a lot of energy to the line. They were, warm up and everything like that was organised and stuff. But
I like their puck outs as well. Another positive. They took the short. The short puck out worked very well, and then they might have hand passed off one ball, but then they just launched it, and you can't launch it against Galway because Galway will come out with it every time. So like, geez, just try and run with it. But it was nice to see them to be brave enough to do the short puck out against Galway. Do you know what I mean?
The worst people on earth are people who go short long with a puck out. It's like, that drives me bananas. What's the point? But look, they played the sweeper. They came organised. They played a sweeper. They battled hard. As you said, they were organised. You could see they'd worked on a few things the last couple of weeks, but ultimately preparing for 2 weeks and going up to play Galway, who've been,
What did Galway have, like 9 different scorers or 9 or 10?
Look, I think in the first half, all their forwards and
Niamh Kilkenny was amazing.
scored
That's
from play.
midfield where she belongs.
Yeah, Aoife Donoghue, great goal in the second half as well.
Yeah.
Look, they were just different class.
Aoife had a super game midfield as well.
Yeah.
She just
Always
powered
does.
into it.
I'm going to argue, David, with David over this. I think Aoife is a born and bred corner forward, possibly maybe on a wandering role. I think at midfield, like, she does have good piercing runs, but very easy to have good piercing runs today against a deflated Offaly team. I think when it comes up to the likes of, you know, marking Ashley Thompson midfield or marking, you know, Denise Gall or whoever, like, I think I prefer to see her further on. That's all. I like Niamh Kilkenny. I would never see Niamh Kilkenny.
I think Galway their midfield partnership is class. Like Niamh Kilkenny, Aoife Donoghue doesn't get the credit because she doesn't get as many scores as other players. But her distribution, this might sound like I'm taking the piss. She actually is a bit like you, Davy. Like she gets all over the place.
That's why he's mad about
her. No, seriously. But like she like, if you had to say who would you think she plays like, it'd be like Davy or Keane Lynch or someone like that who gets out around the middle of the field, with a good first touch, looks up, links a lot of play, doesn't necessarily always shoot the lights out. Look at Keane Lynch today, had an unbelievable game, albeit he was playing at 11. Didn't shoot the lights
3 points, I'd say.
How many camogie midfielders score a lot? Only Niamh Kilkenny, so like, come on.
Well, Aoife's after scoring 2 goals in the last 2 matches, so...
Yeah.
Where is she scoring them from, lads? She's scoring them from the opposition 21. She's in there.
Because she's running in.
She's running from midfield in.
Again, Jamie, you're going to be busy. I don't think we can be taken as a credible podcast with 2 statements we made today. Wexford apparently are better than Clare. Midfielder.
She's an amazing corner forward. I don't know why you'd leave her from there.
But the greatest people in the world are people who convert corner forwards to midfielders. They're my favourite coaches in the world. Like they're the exact opposite of people who go short long with puck outs.
And we'll see, guys.
Fiona, if you're going to play Aoife at corner forward, who are you leaving out? Like,
I'm not leaving out anyone. I'm bringing people back. I'd love to see Hannafy midfield. I'd say she'd tear it up inside there. I'd love to see her there. Herself and Niamh Kilkenny, I would love.
The way they play, sure, she's going to be around midfield anyway.
Yeah, but that's why I'd bet Aoife Donoghue half forward, corner forward, or give corner forward with a wandering role. I just think I've.
The player is a third midfielder.
Is she going to be midfield? She is. Yeah, great.
Keep her inside. Wait till they get a big test in midfield. That's all I'm saying.
Like they were tested last year in the All-Ireland final and they cut loose. They absolutely dominated the middle.
Orlin, Siobhan McGrath, 2 corner forwards today.
Savage.
Serious.
Nice.
But like, how are you going to leave one of them out, or who are you going to bring out?
And Ailish O'Reilly is full, so what are you going to do?
Or let him be half forward.
No.
See, you haven't thought this through. You've just thought you could throw out a statement and that we just move on. But
Aoife Donoghue played corner forward for Galway for many years.
Tony Kelly played corner forward for Clare one time as well. Davy played corner forward for Clare.
Was Tony bad in corner forward? Is that what he got moved?
He played corner forward for Limerick. No.
Anyway, guys, that's my opinion.
We can't have that. Clare are better than Wexford, and Aoife Donoghue is a top class midfielder. I can't stand over anything other than that. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. I can't
stand over anything other than
that. I'm loving Clare. They've won Sweet FA.
Here, listen, that team is backboned by winners, is what they are. At minor, at Ashbourne, at everything, they're ready to explode.
Oh my God!
They take explode.
Move on.
Yeah. Anyways, right. From an all-star point of view, I suppose. Look, Galway. Like I suppose in the first half, you could have picked anyone. Niamh Kilkenny was excellent. She had 3 or 4 points in play in the first half.
Yeah.
4. Obviously Hannafy was on fire as well. Aoife Donoghue around the middle of the field was excellent.
She was good inside, yeah.
You could really have picked anyone from Galway today, wouldn't you? It'd nearly be unfair to not list anyone. I suppose if you had to pick a line on their field that really stood out, I thought their half-back line, Tara Kinney.
Great to see Tara Kinney back as well. That's very positive, isn't it?
And Siobhan Gardner as well, the centre-back.
Yeah, very good.
Really good. I don't know. We just, I can't pick anyone. It's hard. It's just, yeah.
How about we wait till next week when they play Cork and it's actually like
yes. The gauntlet has been thrown down. Look, from an Offaly point of view, as we said, great credit due to Grace Tehan. I think is a fantastic player. Real Rolls Royce for centre back. Roisin Egan, who, as always, just left everything out in the field, and Gráinne Egan, who really was the only forward threat they had, but really tried to carry the fight to Offaly. So look, or to Galway. So fair play to them. Look, it hasn't been easy for them. they do need to up their game and start, I suppose, behaving like a senior county. But if they build a team around players like that, I'm sure they can get back to where Wexford are, and maybe someday even to where Clare are. So we'll move on to next week. And there is some very, very big games in the championship, right? So I suppose the state of play before we talk about next week's fixtures. Clare, obviously, with their win today, are qualified now, or yesterday, are qualified with Tipperary. They're both in the quarter-final, and they're going to be in one pot, and they will be drawn against the two teams who lose next weekend. They'll be drawn against whoever comes out second in the Waterford Westmeath pot, and whoever loses between Galway and Cork. So the losers of Galway and Cork and the winners of Waterford and Westmeath will be in one pot, with Clare and Tip in the other pot, and they'll be drawn against each other. So that's
someone doing that draw then live on RTE some night, Sully, is it?
They did last year, in fairness, after the semi-final. Definitely they drew it live on the pitch, or after the quarter-final inside Limerick. Great. They drew it live on the pitch, but look, it could be just done in an office somewhere, and just who knows. One year they drew the Ashbourne, and then this is harsh actually, it happened anyway, but they drew the Ashbourne and publicised it, and then they realised that they forgot to see the two finalists, and just the following day we just got an email with a completely different draw that nobody had seen. So I was like, yeah, we'll file that under the Camogie file. But anyways, right, next week, I suppose, a couple of real big games, really important games. Waterford Westmeath. Again, who'd have thought that we'd be talking about Westmeath going into the last round of the championship with a straight 50-50 shot at getting to the quarter final. It's really a remarkable story. They face a Waterford side who, Davey, you've been very impressed with so far. So talk to me about Waterford from what you've seen, and I suppose a little bit you've seen in Westmeath. Will you have enough to get over the line and get into the knockout stages next weekend?
I think they will. I think Waterford will do the job, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people actually think. The Waterford foundation is probably their forwards and their range of scores. Like even last week, you had Niamh Rockett. It was immense again with her goals, but the range of scores in their forward line, backbone by formidable midfield as well. Shona Kern has been fantastic so far this year. I think that's where it's going to be won ultimately. I don't think Westmeath would have enough to keep the scoreline down. But at the same that, depending on weather conditions, anything could happen. But I do think Waterford will have enough. But you have Bet, Niamh Rockett, Abby Flynn, Annie Fitz, all going to be scoring, I reckon, and they'll win by just a couple of points.
Yeah, the weather conditions is an interesting one because Cusack Park is a soft pitch. It's a soft pitch, and I suppose, look, yeah, it is interesting. Like Waterford are in shorter units themselves, like Shona Kern, Caoimhe McGrath, Rocket, Bet. Like they're a big physical team in places as well, so it'll be interesting. Fiona, I suppose you've seen Westmeath a couple of times, both against Kilkenny and against Limerick. Like realistically here, obviously the romance of it, I suppose, your heart might be saying, geez, they do have a chance. Realistically, is this just a step too far for them? They're probably not quite at the level that Waterford are just yet, are they?
Yeah, I don't think so. And like as David said, I think it'll be closer than people probably think it will be. But I would be surprised if Waterford didn't win there by 6, 7, 8 points. Actually, I just, if not like even a few more. I think Waterford are just gathering momentum at the moment. They would have been very disappointed with their first half performance against like we saw the interview with the manager afterwards, and he was very like they'd won well, and he's still not very happy with them. So I think that. Yeah, I think Rocket made a comment afterwards that Dan would be saying no hurleys are training on Tuesday night. So I think like they would have put a lot of work into the last 2 weeks. They would have had a free weekend there, to work hard. A few probably an in-house game. I can't see Westmeath having enough for Waterford, even though they're a well-organised side. And I do think it'll be a case of they'll stick with them for maybe 20 minutes, 25, maybe even to the first half. But a second half, I think Waterford will fairly run away with it, unfortunately. But like Westmeath, have had a great championship so far. I won't say it's over just yet, but probably.
It will be over on Sunday.
Yeah.
I know. Like, I suppose Johnny's going to be loving listening to this though, because he's a big man
And what a year.
speeches and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, ultimately, like, the one thing I will say about Westmeath is they'll definitely have their homework done. Like, they'll definitely try and get their matchups right on Waterford. It'll be interesting to see if they try and set up with a back six and be organised again like they did against Kilkenny, or whether they'll go at 7 right from the start. I suppose the big question is, ultimately, do they have enough bodies to man mark all the Waterford scoring threats without counteracting their own forward threat going forward? I suppose ultimately probably not really, isn't it? But we'll come for predictions in a while. But that's a straight shootout for a quarter-final spot. And look, it'll be very, very interesting. Wexford versus Offaly. I suppose this is a dead rubber. So we won't spend too long on it. But Sarah, look, obviously we've already mentioned you've been very impressed with Wexford. From what we saw of Offaly today, this is a real opportunity for Wexford to finish on a high, get 2 points in the bag, and I suppose look forward to next year with a bit of positivity and get up and going again.
That's all they can do. That's it. I don't think anyone's going to be jumping out of their skin at the final whistle, but I think there'll be a foundation there that they can look to for Christmas and January. And you also have Wexford in, Auler to Valor in the Leinster Championship again, and there's a bit of a cock in their steps, so they're happy to go,
Yeah, no, that's it. And look, I suppose Offaly, like, just from looking at I suppose, we're not writing off Albert by any case. I know he's still the manager, but I just thought Susan looked very managerial like today. Like, she had just that bit of a swagger and a bit of an energy around her. So she is, I suppose, in charge next year.
Well, you know what? And on that, Cork had 13 in their backroom team yesterday, and they were all men. And it's great to see a woman.
They had a female liaison officer, actually, Sarah, because she
was number 14. She was number 14.
Oh my God.
13 men, 1 woman. Diversity policies exist in business and in politics. And at this point, I'm wondering how Cork have gone to have 13 men in their backroom team when we've had so many formidable camogie players playing with Cork over the years that nobody has been brought back in to be an option for the players to talk to and work with. We genuinely
maybe they're all looking for handy jobs in other counties.
Well, unfortunately not, and I'm just wondering, does it say a lot about camogie and Cork that you've 13 men willing to go into a backroom team, and I'm just disappointed yesterday. I was going, God, I thought of all of the players I played with along the line, and I'm just disappointed that they're not being looked at, or maybe they haven't put their hand up, but certainly there should be more females on that.
Like there is, I suppose I've actually had 2 polar opposite experiences of this only in the last 12 months. Like, my management team in UL has Ciara Grove and Clare Heher, Aoife Keane, Emer Kelly, all the Clare ex-UL players on it. Okay. Now, funnily enough, we went and asked them, and like, this isn't giving away any trade secrets or anything like that. And there was I wouldn't say there was resistance to it, but I suppose there might have been a small bit of a lack of belief in themselves that, geez, why are we being asked? Like, whereas I think if you went and asked 4 lads to be involved with the Fitzgibbon team, they'd just say yes, going, yeah, sure, yeah, I want to be involved in the Fitzgibbon. So maybe like there is a bit maybe that women have to just believe in themselves a little bit more.
Cork players aren't confident, is it?
No, but it's different from playing and managing. It's completely different. And some people just think that maybe they don't have the skill set or that, and you just have to kind of coax them in and do it. So there's probably more to the play than that. But then in Thomastown, we had no female on the management team, and that's just the way that worked out. And like, it's just sometimes that's just the way it works. It can be a kind of an opportunity. Are they there? Are they willing to come on board as well? But I don't know, is it a conscious decision? But Offaly did have an all-female management today, which is great to see. But then Galway's was nearly mainly male, apart from Orla Kilkenny, and like there's no like, as long as they're the right people for the job and they're putting the structures in place. Like, put it this way. Would you rather have an all-female management that completely just didn't treat the players well and had a complete sham of the setup, or an all-male one that got all the right structures in place and did everything, or vice versa? So I think...
No, I want a balance, because
Why though?
Because
why does it have to be balanced? Why would you replace
13 men?
If you look at the Offaly management today, why would you replace one of them with a male just for gender balance?
No, I'm talking
What
about
if they're the 3 best for the job in Offaly? Why not just leave him there? What if there's no man that's good enough to be on that management?
Fine, we'll keep Offaly aside. Why is
because it suits you.
I think he's talking about the number. It's 13.
No, I know. I suppose. Look, no, I know.
Men,
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Like, I don't believe in the gender imbalancing, and it's easy for me to say it as a male. It's easy to say that, but I think like the attitude should be you're either the right person for the job or you're not.
There's 13 right males, but there aren't ex-Cork camogie players who have won All Ireland who wouldn't be able to offer a shoulder, a word of advice, a tactical prowess in all of the All Irelands that they've won over the last 15, 20 years for Cork. You need to put the net wider, and you need to have harder conversations with females. If you're going to, Paddy's been in charge for a long, long time, and his commitment to Cork camogie is commendable. But at a certain point, when 8 years, 9 years down the track, and you have 13 men in your backroom team, and you have a formidable number of women who've gone before, who have won All Ireland medals, and none of them are in the mix. No, not good enough for me.
I don't know, Sarah. Like, if Cork go and win All Ireland this year, are you going to be still saying they should have had a female in the management team? I don't think it's a male v female thing. I think he believes that they are the 13 best people that have different attributes to bring together, and they're going to improve Cork camogie.
Well, if I'm being honest, right? You look at the teams of old with Cork. That was the cagiest performance I've seen from a Cork team in 10 years. Yesterday, genuinely, every player was passing the ball, wondering if it was the right move.
It's their first championship game.
Guys, it should be. There has to be an innateness. Like Mary O'Connor, Anna Geary, Joanne O'Callaghan, none of those players ever were looking to the line wondering whether they gave the right ball. They played off of their understanding of the game, and I just didn't get that from the players yesterday. So I'm wondering if you had a couple of ex-players in there from Cork, whether they would actually loosen the shoelaces and say, guys, we actually need to start enjoying this, because they didn't look like they were enjoying that game yesterday.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think, if they're the right person, if they're the right skill set. I know as a manager, I'll bring anyone in, no matter where they're from, what their gender is. If they can add to if their skill set and their input adds to the whole thing, I'll bring them in. Like, it never once crossed my mind, like, what gender they are, where they're from, what club they are. Doesn't matter.
It'd be really interesting to see 5-6 years down the line, when a couple of the players retired, when they can come out and openly say it, how they thought about having 13 in that period and them 13 men over them. Like, they to be honest, they can't say it publicly. They can only say it in-house if they had a problem. They can't come out and say it to the media. So when they retire, looking back at your career in 2020, you had 13 men over you. How did that feel? Would you have thought you would have improved if you had a female? But again, you have to wait until they retire, because they can't say it to the media.
Yeah,
I think there was like 13, having 13 on a management team aside from the manager. Like, there was times there where Limerick Camogie this year couldn't get 13 players at training. So, like, I think it's very impressive that 13 men want to get involved. 13 people, not men, not women. 13 people want to get involved with this Cork team. So, like, I think, like, that's what's most impressive about it. But I think that's
in fairness, I don't think any coach is going to turn down the opportunity to work with Cork camogie, to be honest.
Which is a real, reflection on how good they are, like, Yeah,
if they're one of about 10 teams in the country that if you got in with them like that, you'd pretty much learn everything you needed to know about being a county manager.
And it looks good on a CV, which is, that's impressive. Being involved in a camogie.
But even from that point of view, like, they do everything. Like, they do everything the same as the top hurling teams do. So, like, if you're looking to learn and grow as a coach, well, then, sure, of course you're going to go in. So I'm not that surprised that Paddy has 13 with him, because, sure, who'd say no to going in with him?
I was actually disillusioned yesterday, or listening to some of the comments. We were close enough to a few of the Cork. I don't even know what their positions were, but they all did their pieces, and we were listening to these things. And like, I just know from my own personal county experience, we're light years behind. Light years.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like, they're so professional. So. Look, it's an interesting one. I think there will be a change in time. I think the colleges have a big part to play in it. Like, if you look at WIT, they would have had Jackie O'Connor with them this year, Kate Kelly. I think Linda Mellerick was with UCC. We had caught Devan, Niamh Ryan, Sheila Moynihan in with us. I think the colleges are breeding grounds for future female managers. So I do think at that level that you're really breeding the next generation. So maybe it just needs one more generation of coaches to in the next wave. Because I suppose even if you're looking at Joelle there, Caught is still playing. She's only 26, 27. Shanice's only 23, 24, mid-20s. Sheila's only just finished. Even all the management team from O'Draw is still playing for Clare, for us. So it's going to take a little while for the people that have been given the opportunity at these levels to filter in and actually start taking over teams in their own right as well. But yeah, it's an interesting one. We've kind of gone off track a little bit here. I can't remember what we're talking about. We'll move on. I think that shows how interesting the Offaly Wexford game is at the weekend. that we've segued into the gender balance in the Cork management team. Jesus. Okay, so back on track. Look, Wexford Offaly, it is what it is. The dead rubber. I suppose both of them are at different stages of their development. It would appear that Wexford run an upward curve and Offaly run a downward curve. But there is hope for both of them from what we've seen over the weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how that game plays out. Limerick versus Kilkenny is a dead rubber as well, more or less, I suppose. Obviously there's been a manager change in Limerick, or a management step down. The rumours are that the current management are just doing it until the end of the Kilkenny game, and then they'll be gone also. So it's definitely a period of change and transition for Limerick. They definitely fought well down in Waterford, but ultimately I suppose didn't have the quality.
Yeah, and I suppose they still probably had something to play for in Waterford, and as I said last week, they had no fear and they really should be proud of their performance. But I think they'll be fairly deflated. Cueva Costello got a fine, what seemed to be a fine goal that was disallowed. That would have really taken. The scoreline would have been much more, I suppose, appealing, and they would have been much much happier with that scoreline. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's a dead rubber. It's a dead rubber. Kilkenny will look at it as unfortunately kind of a training match, I suppose, and trying out new players and stuff, because I just think it'll be a deflated Limerick going down. They went down to Waterford with nothing to lose, and now it's oh my God, the big long trip down to Kilkenny. I was talking to a few of the girls, they're going down with nothing but their thoughts, they can't even go in cars together, to kind of take, I would hate, imagine that drive home on the year that was.
At least the lambs all go in the same truck. The lambs don't all have to go down one by one. To the slaughter,
They could be better off in a truck together or something.
I know we've kind of labelled it a dead rubber here, but if you look at it from a Kilkenny point of view, this is their last group game. They're going to go straight into the semi-final, and then at the final, if they go through. You're not allowed to play challenge games under the current restrictions. So anyone who gets a chance. They might throw the match. No, Jesus, no.
Get an extra.
That's it, lads. I'm done. This week, this episode has just been scandalous. What is going on? You know they're not going to throw them at you.
They're going to hammer them. Sorry.
My point is that any player who gets an opportunity of game time at the weekend is going to be absolutely chomping at the bit, because it might be the only chance they get to put their hand up for a semi-final spot.
You're very cranky tonight, Sully.
I am a little bit cranky. I'm still cold. And I'm still torn out from Salthill. And that referee in the Limerick tip match absolutely just got my blood boiling. So I'm a bit thick over that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Great. If Noel McGrath is listening, clean the grass out of your fingers there, Noel. How the ref didn't see that? Are you joking?
Yeah.
Back to the Nancy Murray for that referee. That's where he belongs. Anyways. But yeah, no, look. I would worry for Limerick. Joe, we said it here in the podcast before. It's hard to go down even playing Kilkenny in challenge matches down in Kilkenny. If they get a run at Chet Hall, they just Jesus, it is a frightening thought.
A systemic change is needed in Limerick at the moment, and that's not nothing to do with the girls. That's to do with
from the top down. From the top down, there's change needed all over the place, and that's no disrespect to county board officers or anything like that. It's just been neglected for a few years. And it's complete respect to the girls who are still playing for Limerick, putting on that really white jersey, going down to Kilkenny. Yeah. The easy thing to do would be to jack it in and not bother. Yeah. And they didn't. And look, I'd have as much respect for them as for the lads that played in the hurling today. It's absolutely 100%. But that doesn't make it any less of a daunting task that they have ahead of them. No. At the same time. So, yeah. And then on to the big game of the weekend, possibly one of the big games of the year, Galway Cork. The winners advance to the semi-final. The losers go into the pot, I suppose, and maybe risk drawing Clare or Tipperary, which is definitely looking like a potential banana skin. Sarah, we'll go to you. From what you've seen at Cork, I know you went from, I suppose, predicting them to win the All-Ireland to being written off and back and up and back again, but
I'm back.
You're back.
No, I'm back. As in, I'm not up. I'm down. 2 kg.
No, but now that we've actually seen them on the pitch, you've seen Galway a couple of times. What are we looking at here? And I suppose, what can we expect from the two managements, I suppose, with regards to, do they go hell for leather at this? Do they try and keep a little bit in reserve? Is there enough time to keep it in reserve? And do they risk going through the quarter-final, considering an informed Tipperary or Clare could be waiting for them?
I thought about this today, and I wondered whether there would be shadow boxing.
I'm glad you did. That's why I asked you.
No, right. Then I watched Tip and Limerick, and the weather was absolutely atrocious. And then I went, oh my God, you can't run the gauntlet in these games because you just don't know what the conditions are going to be like the following week. Which means that next weekend, Cork and Galway are absolutely going to have to go at it and winner takes all, because no one can predict how a quarter-final will play out. Referees are as dodgy as sin, so you can't rely on them either. So you really don't want an extra game when you can avoid it. And that's the bottom line. So I think both teams will go at it, hell for leather, and decide then after that whether they have fresh ideas for the semi-final or when they meet again, should they meet again. So that's my opinion, is that they will absolutely go hell for leather next week. Both teams will put out 110%.
Yeah, I think so. As you say, it's better to be sitting in the semi-final and maybe have shown a bit of your hand than to be going into a quarter-final.
Unpredictable referee, unpredictable weather conditions.
Yeah.
And then Lady Luck as well in the middle of November. So
no, definitely.
And then you have the dual player scenario as well with Cork. They need as few games as they can to get to the final. Cork
are in a bit of a kind of an interesting position in that it looks like they need a few games to kind of to slicken up the game plan, but at the same time they have a lot of dual players, so they probably don't need the extra game from a wear and tear point of view. So it's a really, really interesting one. I suppose it's hard to read into the two previous results, isn't it? They both beat Wexford. I know we praised Wexford here and said they put up a good battle, but they both beat them comprehensively enough, in fairness. And you couldn't really read anything into Galway today. So you're nearly looking back to last year's game, nearly for some sort of an input. And sure, that was played in nice weather inside the Gaelic grounds, completely different altogether. So it's hard to know what we're going to see.
And if you look at it, Orla Cotter's obviously not involved this year, but Aisling Thompson is back. Gemma O'Connor didn't start the last day. She didn't appear to be in the stadium either. So is it, you've obviously Aoife Murray not in goal for Cork anymore, which is definitely worth 3 or 4 points to any team because of the way she controls
Gemma O'Connor wasn't in the stadium yesterday. I didn't see Siobhan Flannery in the stadium with Offaly today. Is there something happening in the country we need to know about? Is the army being mobilised? We're kind of going. Something gave me an inkling that something was happening, but I'm not quite sure. It's
your headline for the podcast there now, Sully.
Yeah, that's it. But I suppose, you're dead right. Cork minus Orla Cotter, plus Aisling Thompson, minus Gemma O'Connor.
Yeah.
Minus new players. And what do you think, David? You're trying to come in there.
Yeah, I actually like the way Galway are coming into the game. So they had a great win down in Wexford. So they played this week, which was just we call it an in-house game. They're playing next week. If they win that, they'll have 2 weeks off and then a semi-final. I think the way the games have fallen for Galway have set them up to actually beat Cork and go straight to a semi-final.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I hope, last year, I know Liz got a small bit of flack because maybe she let it be a bit too physical, and it kind of. But geez, that's what we want. So you're hoping you'll get a ref like Liz. Ray was good today, in fairness now as well. He did make one bananas decision, I thought, when Heather Cooney looked like she got steamrolled, and then by the time she got back onto her feet and made sure she didn't have concussion, was given a yellow card. And I don't know if you listened. I don't know. Could you hear at the end? Could you hear Sarah Dervin giving out to him? On the commentary.
No.
I think the whole stadium heard it. It was very funny.
Hilarious.
It's not. You couldn't repeat it before 9 o'clock. I know. But so the referee could have a big bearing on that as well, because Cork are big and physical around the middle, and Galway are big and physical around the middle. With a half decent day and the right referee, there could be fireworks in that. It could be class. But
I think
what you don't want is Orla Cronin and Carrie Dolan just hitting frees all day. Like, we don't want that. So hopefully we get the right referee and let him at it, as the man says. So, right, let's go prediction time. And we're going to come to you last this time, Sarah, so that everybody doesn't switch off and start like sending us hate mail. So we're going to start with Davey this time, okay? So, fixtures next weekend, Davey. Give us one-word answers in the senior games. We'll start off with Waterford, Westmeath.
Waterford.
We go Wexford, Offaly.
Wexford.
Limerick against Kilkenny.
Kilkenny.
Yes, no surprises there so far. And then Galway against Cork.
And then Galway.
Okay, Fiona.
My tip for the Ireland is Cork still, but Galway to beat them.
A curveball, Davy. A curveball.
You'll have a keen eye on next weekend's game, so JV.
The old backdoor will suit Cork, you reckon? Interesting. Okay. Right, Fee. Waterford, Westmeath.
Waterford.
Wexford, Offaly.
Wexford.
Limerick against Kilkenny.
Unfortunately, Kilkenny.
Yeah. And Galway, Cork?
I'm going to go Galway. Yeah, for Camogue's sake, I'd like to see, I'm just more impressed by Galway's style of play. I think they're better hurlers, and I think that they will, if they can get their passing game, hurley passing, not hand passing, game right, I think they just have they're more dangerous all over the pitch, yeah.
For the sake of Camogie. Wow. Yep. Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting.
I want to see more.
Right, Sarah, if people are still listening, hopefully. We'll give you the three handy ones first. Waterford, Westmeath.
Waterford.
Wexford, Offaly.
Wexford.
Limerick against Kilkenny.
Kilkenny.
And you have the swing vote on this one, as they say. Galway against Cork.
I'm going with Cork.
As I would expect. As I would expect from a rebel. Is that a head decision or a heart decision? Tell us.
That's a head decision. I genuinely think they'll have been incredibly disappointed when they look back at the match, and I think they will leave everything on the field, not to beat Galway, but to lay down a marker for themselves. They set very high standards for themselves. They didn't reach that yesterday. They left Wexford in the game for too long, and I think they will look psychologically to themselves to actually get out of that over the line. It doesn't matter who they're playing next week. They're going to win next week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I suppose whatever happens, going on those predictions, we're going to have Tip and Clare in one pot and Waterford Cork in the other pot. What about a Cork Tip quarter final? That would be spicy. That would be spicy. But guys, we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for your time, your efforts over the weekend, watching all the games. I suppose there's nothing else to do, is there?
Can we do one last point on the amount of people watching the games now, actually? Like, there was over 900 people tuned in last week to Limerick and Waterford. During a class football match today with Donegal and Tyrone, there was over 600 people tuned into the Galway Camogie match. So, like, fair play to Liberty and other people who are streaming matches. It's great for the game. Like, the lads
do a great job in fairness. The Entray guys, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, sorry. They actually have a Limerick link, I think, David O'Shea. And I was only talking to Killian and Elaine about it today in Galway. And they're very happy with how it's going. They're very happy with the viewership figures. 1,000 people watching a Camogie game is big. I know it sounds small, but it's a small community of people that are interested in it. And it's very professional setup. You see behind the scenes and everything. So fair play to the guys. They're doing a great job, so keep it up. And look, that's it. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you're listening to the podcast, do the same. And we'll see you next week.